So welcome to the bonus call for tonight. Just give me 1 second. Audrey, you are actually here for the miracle experiment. Can you see where you can go to the breakout room? Or do you want me to assign you to the breakout room? Audrey, are you here? Just 1 second here. Here's Audrey. Okay, I can't see her at the moment, but anyway, so I just didn't want her to miss that, the rest of the other call. Okay, welcome for the bonus call tonight. Relatively small group still. How are you? How was your 2 weeks since we met the last time? Anyone wants to share? Gary, you unmuted yourself. How were your 2 weeks?
Yeah, this is good.
Go ahead.
No, it's been pretty good. Kind of quiet, but it's been good. So I guess I'm a little confused. Maybe I come on early. I don't know if I'm supposed to be in the Monday miracle experiment or Friday.
You were actually on the Monday, but you showed up today for the Friday, so you can, if you want to, stay in both. Whatever you want to do. So why not? So then you can also see how people do things differently in the different groups, because you are with Nandita, I think, and Ashia. Yeah. And right. So you can do both if you want to.
How much longer is this bonus call going?
The bonus call, that is, we have 3 more weeks.
3 more?
And then we have Christmas anyway, and then we will see what happens in the new year. But definitely we have 3 more. This is 8, and then we have 2 more, like 9, and then we are so close to Christmas. So, and today's topic that we have is the diet. So welcome, Deborah is here, Elio is here, Gail is here, Judy, Ralph, and Susie are here tonight. And so, has anyone watched lately or still remembers anything about what you learned or heard in the video, in the training video from week 7, which is the art of diet? Does anyone remembers anything and would like to share something about what you maybe learned in this session about the diet? What was new to you and what did you implement in your life? Louise, do you want to speak?
No, actually, I was just going to get a note of that I made.
Okay. Roy, you are unmuted. Do you have questions? Or
I can just share. Of course, I'm brand new in the 100-day, but we had one of the people, Dr. I forget his name. He came out to Seattle, so I got to have my pulse read for the first time, which was very exciting. And so, I guess regarding your topic and question, what I was reminded of is how it makes sense. What I hear is good for my Vata Pitta. It intuitively makes sense, and I do feel better when I do it. Especially, just one example is when I do soak the nuts and the fruit overnight, the dried fruit, instead of just eating them dry. I just feel so much better. My body just loves that.
Yeah. And why is that? Do you? I mean, you haven't really gone through the whole thing yet. Why Vata needs?
All I can say is water. My limited knowledge is that I'm a Vata and we tend to dry out. So when I moisten the nuts and the dried fruit, it's what we need, more warm and soupy type foods, That makes sense?
Exactly. So this is really why it is kind of a good idea to get for everyone to get your figured out what it is that your doshas are, or the combination of doshas. Roy just said he's Vata Pitta, so he has wind energy. Pitta is fire energy. So how do you kind of balance those? And in certain things you might be Vata more, in other things you might be more Pitta. And so how do you balance all of that? So that is kind of always the questions that we have to ask ourselves. And one of the main things to do that is really through our what we eat and our diet. And so that's why it's so important to pay attention to what we put into our body on a constant basis, because that has for most people the greatest influence. And we will go into that like tonight when we talk. Susie, you wanted to share?
Yes. So I have done the 100 days, but previous to doing this program, I had done another program called the Living Foods Institute program in Atlanta, Georgia. It's an anti-cancer program. It doesn't exist anymore. COVID did them in, but it was a raw food diet. And I did have cancer, and I've been doing preventative things ever since. So I did this program, and I did it in the springtime. It felt good in the summer, but I'm like, I cannot do this in the winter time. And the program director was like, you can do this all year round, wherever you are. And I'm like, I literally had to tell her, lady, I won't say her name. I can't do it. I just can't do it. I didn't know why. I just know I feel awful when I eat cold food in the fall and winter time. And when I got involved with the Ayush Shakti program, and they really explained the Vata Pitta to me, I was like, well, of course. Oh, well, it makes complete sense. Thank God I get to eat warm food. Right. And so that is what I learned the most. That was, first of all, I was validated for my saying that, no, I can't eat raw food all the time in the wintertime because I feel awful. I'm cold all the time and never get warm. And it was great because it validated my own intuition of saying, no, I can't do that. And the thing that I have done the most is doing the mung bean soup. I have found that to be the most nourishing and satiating of all my sensations, and calming my mind down. And I put a lot of ghee in my soup when I eat it. I put extra ghee in than what most people do. And that has been amazing for me, especially in the wintertime. It's soothing and lubricating, and I have more ease and grace in my movement, and I just feel overall better.
Yeah.
Was that what you were looking for? Because I mean, that was my
experiences. Yeah, I mean, because that is really showing that we have to pay attention. And Roy just put in there, I tried a raw food diet as a Vata and ended up with an eating disorder. And
wow, I didn't read that.
I had a similar experience that I met a Chinese woman, and she said that I should go on a kind of just because I always had this belly and I was always not really, a lot overweight, but definitely overweight. And she said, yeah, in order to use the weight, you just need to eat all this raw stuff. And she gave me all kind of juices, and she actually prepared everything for me and delivered it. I paid a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning, I felt kind of good. And then, like, I don't know how many weeks into it, I met somebody, and he was kind of an energy healer. And he looked at me and he said, you know what? You're on your way to die. if you keep doing what you're doing, your whole energy is going out. You cannot eat what you're eating right now. You need to change your diet completely. And when I went back to this Chinese lady, she was kind of completely convinced that she was doing the right thing, but I had felt miserable as well. And I hadn't kind of understood quite yet what was happening in my body, but I'm a Vata as well. So for me, that was definitely the wrong thing to do, to go on a purely cold juices all the time, cold food, raw, everything, nothing cooked, which is not good for me, but I didn't understand it at that point.
Right.
And so that is really, I mean, we have now 3 kind of examples for that, how important that is, that we eat according to what our doshas give us. And that only then can we be healthy. And this is why it's so important to understand that we are, what works for one person doesn't work for somebody else.
Can I add one thing?
Of course.
Yeah. So in 2016 is when I found out my official diagnosis of Epstein-Barr virus. I didn't know that I had it. And I've had it pretty much my whole life. And I found out through reading the Medical Medium book. He does a lot of raw food in his books. And I think it's wonderful stuff. I just can't do what he said to do, because again, I had done the raw food, at the Living Foods Institute the year before, and I just knew I couldn't do it. But at least I found out what was wrong with me. And again, I cannot stress enough for myself. I feel so grateful to be part of Ayush Shakti Ayurveda, because not all Ayurveda is equal. That's all I'm going to say. And because the care that I have received, and I've been able to get my pulse taken. I got it from Dr. Clinton. I will be seeing Dr. Radu in Chicago coming up. Even over the video, the care that I received in the art of diet, and the loss of weight for me is going slowly because I've had this condition for so long. It's just going to take me a long time to heal from, which is fine. It'll take however long it takes. I'm not giving up. And but it's like, I know the level of nourishment that I'm getting. It truly is an art of science, and well, it's more than just science. I mean, there's a spiritual aspect to it that I experience for myself. I can't talk about for anybody else. And I just feel nourished on multiple levels. So There you go.
Yeah, definitely. There is, I mean, in general, we say food is nourishing us, but it has to be the right food.
Yeah.
And when we kind of look again at the different doshas, and I mean, I don't know, does everyone, I just go into my gallery view here. Does everyone know what your doshas is? Do you have, okay. So if you know that, then it's kind of easier to know what foods to pick. And I mean, if you really go, I mean, Aina and Roy, you haven't really gone through that, but you will have done in lecture or week 7, you have done this whole booklet about the diet, and it talks about what different foods for diet, even though a lot of that you can also kind of find on the internet, but if you want to look at it before that. But the importance of diet is really, yeah. The easiest way to balance our doshas is really to pay attention to what we eat. And what Roy was saying, it has to be, for a Vata person, it has to be warm, it has to be wet, because Vata is drying out everything. So everything that is a dry food, like a cracker or something like that, just doesn't work for a Vata person. For Pitta, at the same, it needs to be kind of everything that is oily, greasy, light is that is part of Pitta. Also, of course, fire. Everything that is fire is important for Pitta. And then Kapha is earth and water. And what we need to be careful with is like ice cream and cheese, bananas is all kind of things that that Kapha can eat, but most of the others cannot because it's just not good for you. And again, understanding that, and they give you a whole list here in this booklet about what your dosha related diet could look like. And we can go through that a little bit. But before we go there, what is, when it comes to eating, what is one of the most important aspects when it comes to food intake of the whole digestive part? What is it? Anyone, Roy?
I'm just thinking of eating when you're calm and relaxed. I don't know what you're thinking about.
That's definitely one thing. Yeah, that comes into it big time. So there are certain things that you should never do. If you are stressed out, it's better for you to go for a little walk first before you eat, in order to give your body time, or actually, and why is that? What happens when you are stressed?
I know that answer. I know that answer.
Okay.
So when
is
you're
it?
stressed out, your food, your body has a way of shutting down, and cortisol is produced, and all the food that you eat will either not get digested at all and kind of rot in your gut, or it just gets put straight into fat.
Yeah, and why? What is, you say? Yeah, the body that the food is not digested, but why is that? Why is the food not digested?
Because there's a constriction that happens, and the juices that are used, the fire gets dimmed, and you can't digest your food. There's no fire to digest the food.
You mentioned the word fire. It is actually, that is what I was looking for. We're talking about Agni. When it comes to food, we have to see that there is something in our body that needs to work properly, and that is our digestive fire, which is also called in Hindi the Agni. And if we don't have we can eat as healthy as we want. If our Agni is not working properly, we don't take in the nutrients that we need to take in. If we cannot digest properly, whatever we take in, even if it's healthy, we will accumulate toxins in the body, because the body is not digesting what it's taking in. And any kind of toxins that is coming out from that we cannot digest, everything that we cannot digest will actually accumulate as what is called or ama in our body. And every disease is actually down to ama somewhere in the body. And then it also, depending on what it is, we have then that our doshas are not working properly. So that is really what we need to look for. We need to make sure always that our Agni can work properly. And stress affects our Agni. And this is why we cannot digest properly, because when we are stressed. This is why it's better to go for a walk first. Then when we come back, our Agni is kind of settled. Then when we eat, our body can actually make use of that, whatever we are eating, and take out the nutrients in a better way. And we can actually digest everything that is in the food and don't accumulate toxins. So the way, and this is also why you should never watch TV or do something else while you're eating, because whenever you are not focused on eating and are distracted, you are actually diverting energy from the process of digesting. And that actually starts already, as we were learning a couple of weeks ago. Whenever you take something in your mouth, and often you might even take your fingers and start eating that, that's already information coming into your system. How does that feel like? And then your mouth is already starting to kind of produce certain, like the saliva that starts then to has already digestive enzymes. And so when we are kind of watching TV, or then something maybe even stressful, or kind of that is a little bit, yeah, what's the word, aggravating in a sense, then we might also not chew properly, because we are paying more attention to what we are actually watching than what we are doing here for our body. So there are different things that we need to constantly kind of watch for when it comes to our when we talk about diet and what you need to do. And in this wonderful booklet that we have, there's actually something that's called an acne booster. And so if you have difficulties with your digestive system, and particularly when it comes to gas and bloating, then you should actually use these kind of remedies that are given here in this one. And so what you can do is definitely always drink a lot of warm water, starting definitely in the morning. That is something that you heard of course, Roy, and you haven't really heard that yet, that we have like a daily routine, and you should start your day with warm water. And part of that is because it helps the digestive system. And so then the same is true for certain spices. And does anyone remember what the spices are for the digestive
One of them is
system?
ginger.
One of them is ginger. What else?
Turmeric. Turmeric.
It's not necessarily particularly, that has a lot of great properties, but it's not the one that is really good for the acne.
Cinnamon.
Hing.
Cumin,
Oh,
Hing.
cumin.
hing is yeah, it is kind of sometimes it is in the acne booster,
Yeah.
but when you are not kind of even just normal spices that you could use for kind of everything, because hing you don't use for like in every food, but there are a few things that you can kind of use for more or less everything. And which are those? There
Sure.
are two more.
Coriander. Coriander.
Coriander is one, and
Cumin.
You said
Cumin.
turmeric.
Cumin.
turmeric is not on the list here
Right.
for
Is
the
it cumin? Cinnamon?
it's cinnamon. Cinnamon
Really?
is a very, yeah, cinnamon is really something that makes you warm, and
Yeah.
warm is always good for fire. So so cinnamon for me is always great. I love, for example, apples with putting cinnamon on top of them or something like that. So I just constantly like this. Even this taste of cinnamon is really good. I eat a lot of ginger. I drink ginger water. So all of that is helping my digestive system. And since then, also my bloating has definitely reduced big time. And also I had always, even though when I lost a lot of weight, I still had a belly. And I just was always kind of bloated. And so by me adding more of those spices into my daily cooking, definitely made a big difference in my in the way my body is. Judy?
You know, I just started using ginger powder, 1 teaspoon, and a half a teaspoon cinnamon in a liter, brought to a boil in a thermos. And that's for, I was clearing my throat a lot. And that's for mucus. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So I'm really using cinnamon like that for the first time, and definitely feel much more easy, you know, and more comfortable. Very nice. So that's ginger powder and cinnamon. Very nice.
Yeah, it's really worth, if you haven't done so yet, look up the properties of those, of like, just go for maybe the 4: cinnamon, coriander, cumin, and ginger. And type in, that's what I do. I type in cinnamon, coriander, cumin, ginger, all of them separately. And I look for Ayurveda. So I have Ayurveda, then the spices, and then I might put something in like digestion. And then I can kind of look it up, what comes up on the internet, and you find incredible information about their properties and what they do, and in what combination you can use certain spices in order to help you for certain digestive issues. And that is a research that is worth doing, and to really get yourself familiar with some of those amazing spices that we can use as healing. But there's always the disclaimer: what works for one person and is really kind of a medicine can be a poison for somebody else. So you have to always check which one does work for you. I, for example, know that my sister, she cannot eat cumin. And she just never knew. But when she had curries, when she was kind of young, she always broke out with horrible kind of eczema. And she had then immediate like an allergic reaction. And then and curry, of course, is a mixture of spices. So it took her quite a long time to figure out which one of those is actually the culprit. And it's cumin that she cannot, for whatever reason in her body, it doesn't work. And so she can have the curcuma, and she can have, which is the turmeric, but she cannot have the cumin. And so, and both of course are the yellow, so she didn't know which ones it was, but so that is why we all have to test it on ourselves. And then even when we talk to other people, then we can always say this could work, but you have to try it out and see if it works for you as well. So any questions so far?
I have one.
Susie?
I have one, because I know there's a particular type of cinnamon that's medicinal. Do you know the name of the particular type of cinnamon that we're supposed to be taking? I can't think of it at the top of my head.
Nope.
Starts with a C. I want to say it starts with the C. Not cinnamon, but it actually has a name in front of it.
Gail, do you know?
Ceylon?
Is it cassia?
It's not, maybe.
Ceylon?
I think whoever's saying it the other way, I'm recognizing that.
Ceylon?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Got me.
Yeah, I think that's it. Okay.
I wouldn't know off the top of my head, but you heard it now. And this is also something that we can then, of course, look up. So I don't know right now. So I will definitely check it out.
There are two types of cinnamon. One is the flaky type, which is usually called Ceylon cinnamon. And the other one, which is a thick bark, that's called cassia.
It's the
And I
C.
think they
the
both
C one,
have
the
different
Ceylon.
properties. They have different properties.
I think it's the Ceylon that we're talking about. That's the one that.
Yeah, that's the flaky one.
Right, that's the
And
one that. Go ahead.
And usually that is what is recommended for cooking as well.
So would that be considered also, because you're putting it in hot water for tea? That's a form of cooking, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So then, any other questions here?
Yes, is lemon good? Because lemon is always recommended by some of the health.
Well, again, it depends, because it depends again on your dosha, whether citrus, fruit, or any kind of thing is good for you. It's really sour. Lemon is sour, so sour is not for all of the doshas. So again, you might mix it with certain things, so you can actually kind of override it, and then it might be okay. But that is again something that needs to be kind of looked at from the point of view, what is your dosha.
Mm.
And when you, I mean, you are not, Audrey, you are not in the course, in the 100-day course, are you? So you don't, because
no.
we do have
No,
these
I'm
kind
new.
of.
I'm new to this. I'm new to all this ancient secrets.
Yeah, you're new to that, and we
Yeah.
just have these. We have a program that lasts for 100 days. People go through and learning about ancient secrets, like about the diets and the doshas and everything that, like the foundation of the Ayurvedic and Siddha Veda. And so we are having bonus calls right now. So that's where you landed on tonight.
Yeah, I haven't even managed to read ancient secrets yet because I got problem with reading now because my eyes blur up. So it's a bit hard to read as well.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
listen to, you know, it's on Audible. You can
it is
listen
on
to
Audible.
it.
You can listen to that.
Yes,
That is a good idea.
I might think of, I might get that eventually.
Yeah, that is a
Thank
very
you.
good idea to use it. And it's actually Dr. Clint reads it himself. So it's really, so you get all his emotions when he's getting emotional. You actually can really feel it. It's not somebody else reading it. It's really so personal when he reads the book. So that is definitely worth. I have both. I have the book, and of course I also have the audio because I just like him reading it to me.
Okay, thank you.
For me listening. So when we come again to diet, independent right now from what is good for us as a certain type of doshas or mixture of doshas, there are two things that when it comes to eating behavior is the quality of food, and the other thing is the quantity. Anyone remembers what this was all about? So do you want to recap, or do you remember? So when it
Recap,
comes to
please.
quality, Susie, what did you say? I didn't hear
I
that.
would like a recap, please.
You want me to recap? So
Recap, please.
what it says, it's what should it be? It's all, when it comes to quality, it should always be natural, as little processed as possible. And so even if you're not supposed to eat it raw, you should cook it kind of only the shortest time possible, but still that it's done. And
Fresh.
it should be fresh.
Yeah.
It should be what? Local. If possible,
Local.
it should be organic.
Organic, if possible.
It should be ripe. So you should not eat something that has not quite, because again, you want to take all the nutrients out of a piece of food, and that if it's not ripe, then you miss out on a lot of things. Roy, you were, oh,
I was waving goodbye to Ralph, sorry.
Okay, so he left, I didn't see that. And then of course they say you should kind of cook yourself as much as possible instead of going into a store and buy kind of prepared meals like a lot of people do nowadays, to go and just buy these kind of just that are already ready-made kind of, I don't even know what they are called, but because I never do that, I've always been cooking myself. I had a kind of a big family with 3 children and a husband that had always a lot of guests. So we were always cooking at home, and going out into a restaurant was kind of a treat for a long time of my life. So when it comes then to, that's quality, it's really organic, local, ripe, so everything. And I can tell you the difference when you have ever had the chance to taste the difference between a mango that you buy in a store and a mango that comes right off the tree. I'm living in the Bahamas, so mango trees are kind of everywhere. They just grow at the roadside. And when you take a mango right from a tree, the taste is unbelievable. So now that, of course, now the time is over in the year, so so we have to wait for a few months before the mango come back. And now I went to the store the other day because I just love mangoes and I wanted to eat one and bought one. And I was so disappointed because it just doesn't taste like that. So getting something that is actually really local that you can more or less just take when it's in the season from the ground, from the trees, it's just so different. In bananas is the same. Bananas, when they are actually harvested or whatever you call that, they are not ripe. So their ripening process is actually happening when they're coming into the stores. They're kept so cold, even on the ships, that they are not ripening on the way. And then so it's just so different. And we again have bananas here in the Bahamas. So that is such a different taste, and the quality and even the nutrients in these ripe fruits is so different. And so whatever you can get wherever you are, and what they always say as well is that you eat according to the season that you are in. So when I'm originally from Germany, so that means we have a certain time in the year where we have strawberries. And the strawberries in Germany are extremely good, but they only last for like 6-7 weeks each year in a certain time. Then we have asparagus, and Germany is well known for asparagus, but it only lasts for a few weeks. So you can only eat it more or less in that time. And cabbage, all of those that have a season, we actually should more or less eat in the season. Again, there is something that has to do with how do we balance our doshas, and whatever is growing in a certain season is also normally good for our body, particularly if we were born in that area, because then our body is actually craving and takes the most out of those foods. If we have moved like I have, so some of the things that I find here and what is a typical Bahamian food is not what I should eat. And so I know that, and so I stay away from it. But in general, wherever you are, eat what's local. Big influence on how you digest the food as well. And you can, as I say, when you come into lesson 7, you will find it all there, Roy. And then we have the quantity. And again, it depends on what dosha you are. Anyone remembers what it was? Who can eat the most? Louise, you are muted. You're muted.
I'm very thin and I have a huge appetite.
And you are what?
Vata. I'm Vata,
Yeah.
Vata Pitta.
So Vata can eat the most and Pitta can eat kind of medium. So when you are Vata Pitta, you're really good. You can just eat. Whereas Kapha, they cannot eat that much. They gain weight pretty quickly. And they tend also to have more sturdy bodies. So they have already a different, when you look at them, they have a different build than a Vata person. And so even if you kind of as a Kapha person try to lose weight, it's much more difficult to do that than it's for a Vata person. It's just a body type thing. And so don't be angry with your body because you cannot lose the weight. You have to do that in the way that suits your body type, and Kapha has a different way of, so you need to eat certain foods with Kapha in order to lose weight. And whereas with Vata, it's kind of easy. It doesn't, you just don't even gain the weight as easily because you're just going really, everything is going quick. Roy?
I have a question. It seemed to me, I just finished the 30-day detox and with all the mung, and I couldn't keep my weight on. I was just getting skinnier and skinnier. Is it known to make you lose weight?
It will definitely help you to lose weight, but when you even keep at it, what normally happens is that you build it back up. because at the beginning, what happens when you start really the detox is you're getting rid of a lot of toxins that are stored in your body. And that is a good thing, because whatever is there, and often it is stored actually in the fat. Toxins are often stored in fat. So when you start, even you are skinny, you still have body fat. And that is where the toxins are mainly stored. And when I used to work in a gym, and we would test the people how their fat content by taking certain measurements. And it's really astonishing that often very skinny people have a very high body fat. And you wonder sometimes, because you think it's only the, but then you can have somebody that has much more weight and they look kind of overweight, but when you actually test them, they are not necessarily have as high body fat content than somebody who's really skinny. And that really surprised me, because I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it. And so therefore you are actually losing the weight at the beginning, but if you keep doing it, the body will regulate itself. You might want to add certain things then after you've finished your detox that might be a little bit more nourishing and more calories in a sense, even with your mung beans. So what I do now, I think I have lost enough weight. So I'm kind of putting now a lot of, I like coconut cream. So it's kind of made out of it's not coconut milk, but it's more like a cream. And so when I have my mung bean, I might take then two spoons of coconut cream. It's so rich, it's so nice, and it just adds a little bit. And I now I eat quite a bit of rice with it as well, because I always eat basmati rice, but that's good for me, and I don't need to lose any weight any longer, but I still like to eat my mung beans. So that is how I do it. And there are so many other, you can put in squash or whatever. So you can put in more things that are a little bit more filling and a little bit more calories that might be good for you then. Just play around with it and see what happens.
I was thinking of sweet potatoes.
Oh, sweet potatoes, yeah, would be good as well.
Yeah. And quinoa.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely things I'm kind of conservative when it comes to things like that. I have never really tried quinoa or anything like that, so I still need to explore things. I come from Germany, we didn't have things like that, and I come from a family, we had our certain meals and nothing beyond that, so everything is new. So I'm learning. So what is another thing when it comes to eating is that we never eat until we are really full. And that is something that is for most of us very difficult. Does anyone remember how much we should eat? What it's kind of said in the book?
It's like, do you feel basically satisfied, like 80% or something like that?
It's about 2/3.
2/3,
So you should
okay.
eat about 2/3, and then you should still leave room. So because when you fill, and again, it comes down to how can acne work? And acne are digestive enzymes. If you fill your tummy to the top really until it's full, then there's no room for the body, for the digestive enzyme actually to get to the whole food. So it cannot digest everything because it doesn't really reach everything. So you only should eat for about like 2/3, and then kind of let the body do its work. And then the acne has the most space and it can do its work and can really help you digest your food. So that these are all little things that make a difference when it comes to making the best out of having your acne work the best. So, and then of course, how to eat. And then I can just read it out to you. It's in peace and slowly. We already mentioned that. And make your meal with lots of love and eat only when hungry. So that is another thing, even though they say you should eat at a certain time. So that is what the daily routine says. But if you're not hungry, you shouldn't eat. And that is also something that I normally skip my breakfast, like the early one. I don't eat at 7 or at 8 o'clock. I'm just not hungry at that time. I'm hungry around 10. So my early breakfast that a lot of people have just doesn't happen for me. And I don't know why that is. It's just so, but I listen to my body. I've learned in my life to listen to what my body wants. And then I might have a snack in the afternoon. So I mostly skip because I'm eating breakfast late. I have a snack in the afternoon that is often like a fruit or something like that. And then I have my main meal, but it has to do with my my schedule and where I am during the day, that I have my dinner then around between 5:30 and 6. So I have a very early dinner as well. And then I have this kind of, in a sense, fast overnight. So because my fasting is actually from around 6 until 10 o'clock the next morning. Susie?
Yeah, the other thing that I know that's Ayurvedic is when you drink. So if you want to lose weight, you drink your liquids a half hour before your meal. If you want to stay the same weight, you drink the liquid with your meal. And if you want to gain weight, you drink your water after your meal.
Yeah, but even though I'm kind of a little bit skeptical about the one in the middle, because you should never drink a lot of
It's
fluids
sipping.
with
It's
your
not a
food.
lot, right? It's sipping.
It's
It's
sipping.
not
It's
like,
only
yeah,
sipping,
sipping.
when you're,
Yeah.
it's only, and you should never drink a lot anyway
Yeah.
around the meal times, because it affects your digestive, your acne. So
That's why you do it a half
want to
hour
water
before.
down your acne.
Yeah,
So
that's
is just
and
the
that's Ayurvedic, but I don't actually know if that's part of Ayushakti Ayurveda. I just know that that is a general rule for Ayurveda. So
Mhm.
just, I know we're doing Ayushakti, but I try to drink my fluid way before I eat anything, because I drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
Cornelia,
Yes.
Cornelia.
Yep.
I have difficulty. I always want something sweet after I eat.
Yep. That means that you should pay attention to what you eat and when you eat it. This is kind of, you might not have then the right foods in the right combination, because they say if you have all 6 tastes during one meal, then you should be satisfied that you don't crave any sweets at the end.
Mhm.
But I remember that Dr. Rexler was actually, I think he was the one who told us in what order we should eat the different tastes. Like, what are the, by the way, what are the 6 tastes that we have in food? Anyone remember?
Sweet, sour,
Yeah.
pungent,
Yeah.
bitter.
Mm-hmm.
That's 4. Who else?
Salty. Is salt in there?
Salty.
Astringent.
Astringent. Yeah.
Astringent.
Yeah. So, and they can be eaten in a certain way, and I right now have forgotten in which order it should be kind of taken, and because that would then prevent your cravings for sweet at the once you're finished. And I think it must have been Dr. Rexler, because he was the only kind of doctor that we had on the bonus calls, and it was on one of the bonus calls where he mentioned that. So I have to go back and check that. That's a very good thing, yeah, to kind of figure that one out, because I remember that he said that when if you eat it in this way, then you don't have these cravings at the end. And because I remember that I was thinking that my father-in-law, as well as my ex-husband, that he actually, they always wanted to have something sweet. So my father-in-law, he would get up from the table and he would always go for chocolate every time. And so I'm kind of, so when I heard about that, I was immediately thinking of him. Yeah, he's one of those people that needed that. So he didn't get what he needed from that point of view of having all the tastes really in one meal. So then what else do we need to know? What we need to know is what kind of, and this is something that I'm not really going through, but I want to give you again, where do you find it? It's actually on page, yeah, depending on which course you are taking. If you have still the material from the first course or the new one. So Deborah, Roy, and Gail, and most of you should have the new one. So it's a different page number, but it actually says that which of the, like if you have high vata and you need it really, it's really, really high, then you should eat salty. If it is moderate, that you only have like a slightly higher vata, then sour is actually the taste that would help you to balance your vata. And if it's really a weak balancing, then it's sweet. So even knowing things like that is, Dr. Rexler is coming, so as if we were just talking here. Good evening, Dr. Rexler. Hello. We were just talking about you. You're still muted. I can't hear you.
I just got a message from Chris.
I see that we need your help. It was actually something that I thought you said a couple of weeks ago. We had this question. Judy, do you want just to repeat the question?
Something about the 6 tastes?
Yes.
Well, my question was that I always want something sweet after I've had a very good meal, you know, mung and vegetables and delicious, but still
Especially
want something.
if it's frozen and sweet, even better.
Oh, well, that I had to give up. I'm sorry, that had to go. That was a serious affair. That's gone. But I usually have a date. But I do always want something sweet.
So the 6 tastes, sweet, sour, salt, bitter, pungent, and astringent, can be satisfied in a lot of ways. But if we spice our food well, we shouldn't end up with that, you know. But it's a common limbic system trait. Like when we came across something sweet in nature in primitive times, we ate until we fell asleep, you know. Like we came across a tree that had sweet fruit, we just kept eating and we stayed there until basically the fruit was all gone. So it's something in our limbic system, you know. That's, you know, my favorite one was I was listening to Tony Robbins the other day, and he said, you know, after you eat a big, you know, Thanksgiving meal and you're like, oh, I'll never eat again, and someone goes, pumpkin pie, you know, we eat more, you know. So it's our primitive brain. So you could ask that question, like, do I really want this, or is this some primitive urge that I'm having? And then you get to decide. And the trick, if you're going to eat it, don't feel guilty about it. You're on mute. You're on mute. Yeah.
I know. I'm being quiet. I have a household asleep. Yeah. Thank you. Those were all very thoughtful. It could also be habit. Habit could be habit, maybe.
Right, but what's habit? What's habit? Habit is that those ingrained things that are sometimes, again, not because we want it. It could be the bacteria in our body want it. Like you can actually be really rational about it. Like I have some pregnant women that when you eat food, your body categorizes it like throughout your whole life. And then when you're pregnant and you need a certain mineral or a vitamin, your body goes, oh, you should eat, this. And there's probably, if you think about it, something better you can eat if it's some kind of food that you really, really shouldn't indulge in, at times. So just have your cravings and then think about it.
Okay.
Maybe drink some water,
Okay. Yeah, good. Sip hot water.
Yeah.
That helps. Okay, thank you.
Or eat it, enjoy it.
I've done that. I've done that.
Like really enjoy it. Like pay attention to it. We used to do this. Experience where we take a grape and we'd roll it around in our mouths and then just slightly pierce it. Like really taste all those textures and taste. Like really, like fully enjoy it. And then when you fully enjoy something, you usually don't need something else after.
Yeah. Paying attention to eating, paying attention to the food. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's great.
And I hope that helped.
It will.
Yeah,
It does. Thank you.
My idea was that you said something also, it depends on in what order we have the different tastes while we are eating. And that would also stop this kind of having this craving at the end that's we want something sweet. Am I wrong on that?
There is a whole study of it in part of the Vedas, how we should eat certain foods in certain orders. I actually went to a home in outside of, let me think where I was. I was in Nandi Hills. I think that's outside of Bangalore. And I had a traditional Indian meal and they serve food in a certain order. And at the end of the meal, you have buttermilk to calm the digestive fire. So you have things first to excite the digestive fire, like maybe onion and ginger. I have to think back, it was a long time ago. And then you eat your meal and then you have buttermilk at the end, maybe mixing it with some rice. And that stops the digestive fire because you don't need it anymore, per se. But that's a very traditional way of eating Indian food. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying it's traditional, has an order to it.
Okay. Yeah, I had this something in my mind and I couldn't remember what it was, that there is something that you could do to avoid these cravings at the end. And I just couldn't remember what it was. And I thought you had mentioned it.
Yeah, and the thing is, you have to go back to see why we're craving it. Are we really hungry? Are we really in need of more calories? Or is the sugar banned bacteria playing loudly and like screaming out for food? Or and again, sweet is a very sweet is if you look at a chart of the tongue, sweet is the very tip of the tongue. And sometimes you can satisfy by just taking a little bit of sweet on the end of your pinky and just touching the edge of your tongue and see what happens. It's an interesting thing if you want to try something fun, is take a little asafoetida, a little hing, and just put it to the tip of your tongue, and you'll feel it like through your body. They say it's a way to kill parasites, putting a little asafoetida on the end of your tongue.
Okay.
I just spoke about the doctor who taught me that, Dr. Jennifer Daniels. She's in Panama now, I think. She was big into getting rid of parasites. She would have people put natural turpentine on sugar cubes and you swallow them. And the parasites come out to eat the sugar and the turpentine kills them. Don't try this at home.
Okay.
Yeah, gluten-free. Somebody wrote, get gluten-free hing. There's a company, I think it's called Starwood or Star West. I got the health food store here to change where they got their hing, because hing a lot of times has gluten in it to keep it from being sticky.
Okay.
Hing is really interesting in its solid form. It's like little rocks, little gluten, like really sticky stones. And then they put gluten in it so it doesn't stick, but this company does it differently, so they don't have to put gluten in it. They use something else, maybe arrowroot or something. I forgot exactly what they use.
Deborah, you have unmuted yourself. Okay, go ahead.
Dr. Stephen, I am so glad you brought up the parasite issue, because that was the question I had about the detox, because I am a person that uses turpentine. So, yeah. So that was my question about the protocols with the detox, and then is there a separate way that they handle parasites?
Toxico is really good for parasites. Vaca oil or castor oil, really kind of pisses them off. There are some stronger Virechen, which is a purgation, because you try to, sometimes when we do techniques like, there's the panchakarma is, I just spent an hour and a half in my hyperbaric chamber, so I'm a little like high on oxygen here. So Nasya, Vamana, Basti, Rakta Moksha, which is bloodletting, which we do a lot for like reducing toxins. Let's see, Vamana, Nasya, Netra, like Netra Basti from the eyes, regular Basti. But there are different kinds of like Vamana, which is vomiting therapy. You eat porridge first. It protects the stomach and sometimes attracts the parasites, so you can get rid of them this way. There are certain foods that you eat before you do purgation therapy with castor oil or different herbs. So again, the whole idea of panchakarma is to bring all the toxins from the solid tissue into the hollow structures of the body, which, from our mouth to our anus is actually outside the body. It's not actually inside the body. It's a tube that's outside the body. You have to absorb to get it inside. So we try to push all the toxins into that hollow, and we release it through the mouth and through the anus that way. How'd I get on that? How'd I get on that subject?
Thank you.
That's interesting. I didn't know that it's considered actually outside of the body.
Well,
yeah,
maybe
sense,
not everybody considers that, but it makes sense. Unless you absorb something, right? You can eat a piece of hard corn, right? And it will come out as hard corn.
Yeah.
Nothing gets absorbed.
Yeah. Or if you swallow a penny or something like that.
Might not make it through the stomach though and out, Yeah. Kids swallow things, they come out the other side. Dogs.
Definitely. Yeah. Oh, yes. So true. So do you have any questions, as Dr. Rexler is here with us? A surprise. Yes, Roy, go ahead.
Well, we talked a little bit about this earlier, but I'd love to hear Dr. Stephen, if you have any tips for weight gain. I've been thin my whole life, and that's okay, but I mean, really, really thin.
I was at a seminar once, and the seminar leader had someone stand up who needed to lose weight, and they asked them what they did. I mean, you can learn a lot from people. So do you eat enough calories?
Yeah, I eat really good, really healthy and a lot.
Great. But do you eat enough calories?
Yeah, I eat a lot of fats and a lot of good stuff.
Great. And why do you think you don't have enough weight on you?
Well, let's see. I'm literally 115 pounds, so I'm really kind of bony, and it's not very comfortable. So I can get cold sometimes.
Mhm.
Mostly I'm pretty healthy, but I kind of tend to leak. I kind of, how do I put this? I'm peeing and pooping a lot. So there's something going on there.
So maybe you have fast transit. So how do you slow? So you might not be absorbing enough. It's just transiting
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
So to slow down transit, again, eating fat helps slow down transit,
Mhm.
and not eating things that cause quick transit, like lots of fibers. Do you eat a lot of fiber in your diet?
Just some rice and some grains. That's good for Vatas, all right?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Be interesting to write down what you eat for a couple of days and send it to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. But you should have people who want to lose weight that can study your habits.
Yeah, I think I'll write a book.
Do you fidget a lot? Are you always moving?
I'm a pretty classic Vata, and I can have a lot of movement and headiness and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it could be that's just that nervous energy burns up a lot of calories, and
Definitely.
you have to hang out with some more kaphas.
Yeah, it always feels good.
You can get like a an animal that's very kapha.
Yeah. About a 50-pound cat.
That's right. Mancoon. But look at a lion. A lion sleeps most of the day. They just, every
never thought
animal.
about
So,
that. Yeah.
so you have to maybe, again, it might be very natural for you to be this kind of body type, based on your dosha. Because there has to be extremes at either end.
Yeah.
But this nervous energy slowed down should help slow down the metabolism too, and that transit of food through you.
Yeah. Bingo. Yeah.
Be interesting. Do you there's an herb called Triphala.
Yeah.
Which is Amalaki, Harataki, Bibliotaki. There are 3 fruits, and it strengthens peristalsis. It doesn't speed it up or slow it down. It strengthens it. And sometimes by strengthening peristalsis, I just had a guy I took care of a couple of weeks ago, maybe not even a couple of weeks ago. He went in for a small operation and ended up with a huge infection. I mean, it like liquefied his part of his colon, his small intestines. The doctor said he didn't know what he was removing when he was removing things, because it was like gelatinous. But for some reason, they couldn't believe in the hospital, after 6 surgeries, he lived. And I met him in a restaurant I ordered, and he goes, "Oh, you should meet my girlfriend. She eats that way." And I turned and I knew his girlfriend. And he has this terrible time gaining weight and eating food. And I suggested some Triphala to him, because I didn't want to give him something more complex with many different herbs. And he called me up I think it was yesterday, and he's like, "Oh my God, I'm having like a normal bowel movement in the morning." And so it really changed his absorption, because absorption is in mostly towards the end of the colon. And if it moves too quickly by there, you don't absorb enough water and you don't absorb enough nutrients. So Triphala could be something that you could take. Triphala is in parts of all the different Shakti herbs, but sometimes taking just Triphala, and only organic Triphala, because you do not want to get stems and leaves. You want fruit. So usually when you get something organic, I like Banyan Botanicals. It's a great company. Their herbs are made by Organic India, who makes all the Tulsi teas and stuff like that. So very, very high-minded company.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. You're welcome. Take it at night too. Like before you go to bed. Like just one should be enough for your weight.
Next time you see me, I'll be 300 pounds.
That's right. Oh my God. Now what do I do?
That is amazing information what you just gave us. I never thought about the speed actually of the food going
Yeah,
through the
because
colon.
vata is movement. Vata is movement.
Yes.
And, you know, if things are always moving, then it can move quickly through the body.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really so amazing a knowledge to have, because I never even considered that might be actually for someone who is really thin, that this might be
Yeah.
a cause.
And again, we're gonna, I don't have his pulse, but looking at his body type, looking, you know, at his face, hearing what he says, you can't go wrong taking a little Triphala. Most people in India take it over 40 years old. They take Triphala before bed. You could take it in pills for sure, you know, but a lot of people put it in a copper cup with water and then they drink the water. It's kind of like an infusion of Triphala. And again, I pick up these little things for years, just from working with different doctors.
So do we have any other questions?
Because Dr. Steve is going to sleep. Early patients tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ski tomorrow, first
You
day.
go skiing.
You're going to
Wonderful.
see me on the Sunday call in the helmet again.
Brilliant.
With the goggles.
Of course. And do you take Hank with you when you go skiing?
You know, I take him during the summer all the time, but during the winter, I have not figured that out yet. So
Okay.
I have some people visiting him during the day. But she might not be on the Sunday call, but if not this week, next week. I had a patient recover from uveitis, which is a serious disease of the eye. The eyes get extremely red, and her doctor said she was the only person he's ever seen get better. Everyone else takes cancer drugs to suppress the immune system. So it's a autoimmune problem.
Okay.
So the doctor told her that what the drugs were, and she goes, I need some time. He's like, you don't have time, you can go blind. She's like, I got to do this a different way, because she's a nurse. So she knew what cancer suppressant drugs would be like her whole life. I mean, she's only like 30 something. And she came, I gave her a treatment on this device I have in the office. And she got up and her eyes looked better. I'm like, oh, it's a circulation problem. She thought I was a little crazy. Someone referred her in. And then she met with myself and Dr. Roenick, I think. And she took the herbs and she really delved into the diet. And it took a number of months, but she was much better after a couple of months. And now she's complete. The doctor said he's never seen that before. And then he tried to make up all these reasons why. And then he said, oh, it must be what you're eating, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But do you think he's going to suggest that to all his patients? No.
Nope. He's not going to do it.
He'll get thrown out of the league.
Yep.
But that's amazing.
Yeah. Now we let you go so you can go and be ready for your skis tomorrow morning.
No, I have to work. I first see patients from like 8 to 12. And then I have ski patrol training where my new line is, now that I've gotten over success, I can fail better. Like it's like hours of failing at, like they fake injuries and we have to like find them on the body, but then you miss the medical part or the allergy but it's great. It's a great thing in humility to do something that you're just not good at yet. And you learn a lot while doing it. So it's a good lesson for me. Then I'll ski. And then tomorrow I am on ski patrol all day. So you gotta have energy for that and sleep.
Yes.
And then wait, before you go, I'll have to see sleep. That's bliss. Dog bliss.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh, Hank is sleeping. So nice.
Could
to see him.
I just tell a quick experience I had?
Sure, absolutely.
So I was diagnosed with dry eye syndrome, you know, and they had me doing drops every hour. I had actually lesions on my eye, on my, you know, wow, extremely painful. So, okay, so I did what the doctor said, every hour, whatever. Then I found out about using trifle ghee on the eyes, lids. Within, I had complete comfort in days.
Yeah.
And I went back to him a month later. My corneas were abraded. And when I went back to him, you know, whatever. And then he said, okay, I'll see you in a year. And I said, well, how are my corneas? He said, oh, they're completely healed.
Wow.
So how about that? Trifle ghee.
Right. Ghee is this incredible thing. I went to a place in Tamil Nadu, and they brought me to this place, and there was ghee over 100 years old there. So
Wow. That's the gold.
Yeah, it was locked up in storage, you know. They had all different kinds of ghee. And I stayed at this place where they actually made Ayurvedic herbs. And the guy told me in 10 years or 20 years, this wouldn't even exist anymore. But they were actually rolling the pills in their fingers. Like there was just people sitting around in a circle making the pills with their hands. And they raised boys from the time, I think they were 8 or 10 years old. They'd wake up the boys in the middle of the night to taste the preparations at different points. So they'd become experts when they were older at tasting the preparation to know if it had everything in it that's needed. Like a wine connoisseur, you know?
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's really amazing.
So now Hank is peed, so he can go to sleep.
This short little last minute in the evening before he goes to bed.
Yeah. He could probably do it without it, but
it's better with.
Yeah, he doesn't mind. He goes, and he's like right back to sleep in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't think he's even
so easy like that.
Yeah, and that's the way we should be, you know?
Yep.
But we have to get up and pee in the middle of the night, and then we get upset that we have to, and we worry about our future, and then we're up for 5 hours, you know?
Yeah, sometimes. That's so true.
All right, everybody be well, and we'll maybe see you on Sunday. And Dr. Hemmung's in the United States now.
Yes, some people have already seen him or going to see him. Yeah, Roy already saw him.
Yeah, he's coming to my office 21st.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, a lot
part
of people
of the unofficial part of the unofficial tour.
On the days he's not in clinics, he is coming to visit you. But
No. We're having a clinic here.
You have the clinic here.
There is no rest. There is no rest for the Ayush Shakti doctor. I promise you that.
Yeah, probably not.
All right. Great. Bye,
All
everybody.
right. Thank you so much for coming on the call again.
You're welcome.
Yes. So appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Dr. Steve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris, for reaching out. That was just what a surprise, but that is also really Dr. Steve, and he is always so willing to share his knowledge, and just even, I'm always blown away that he's just doing it. He's so full of always serving, always. And what a great guy. So even on his days off, he's still serving, going on ski patrol and helping other people, even though it's kind of fun for him as well, but he's still serving at the same time. So he always knows how to make the best out of every situation. So where are we? So thank you, Chris. So we had the different doshas are actually then calmed down with different tastes. And so that is really something to look up again in your book. so that you have that ready when you actually need that. Depending on what's happening in your body, you can always go into this handout. And as I mentioned before, it's always a good idea to take a lot of notes around that as well. So when you look something up, that you put these notes either here or, yeah, this book is available. Yeah, right. That is the workbook from lesson 7. So you're not quite there yet, but when you get to lesson 7, the art of diet, this is then what it comes with. And there's a lot of other information as well that comes with that. There is the bonus call that comes with that, with Dr. Smita, the 5 pillars of diet. So that would be in the bonus section. So if you haven't watched that yet, that is definitely worth, I mean, to what you could watch right now, Roy, because you have access to that. 7 not yet. So that is definitely a good idea to go back to that as well, to watch that, what she has to say about diets. And just different information. I mean, I really have now different kind of books where I take notes, and then at some point I sort them on the computer, because where I then take notes only about diets. And then I have one about doshas. So whenever comes something up like doshas, then I write it there, and then I sort it, and then I put it together and put it in order. So it makes sense to me. Because as I mentioned before, Ayurveda is such a big topic with so many different aspects to everything. And to make sense of it, I need to sort it in my brain in a certain way. And that's why I take a lot of notes. Like even now I took all the notes what Dr. Rexler just said about the asafoetida, that it's for parasites, for example. So now I have to find a way. I have it now for my session tonight, but where do I put this information? So I need to figure out what is, so I can go for parasites and say, what do I do for parasites? I can use asafoetida, but then I can also use from the asafoetida point of view, okay, asafoetida works for parasites. So I have to put my information sometimes in several spots in order to get the complete picture. And this is what everyone needs to find out for themselves. What is the best way for you to organize what you hear and your knowledge? And we have these great books. So that's always where I start, as I mentioned at the very beginning, and kind of, I think, in the second week. Deborah, you weren't there yet, and Roy, you weren't, but I think I mentioned it in the intro call, is that I have the dosha, and the dhatus one is always next to me when I do something with Ayurveda, because that's where I put all my information in, and then I go to this certain spots where it fits. And as I say, and at some point, I always take it then out and put it in the computer and create a nice little booklet for the different topics. That's how I work. And but that doesn't work for everyone. I know that Carol, for example, she always has these kind of figures in her head that then are doing certain things, and that's how she remembers things. And so everyone needs to find their own way how to accumulate and keep all this knowledge. I mean, for me, often it is not so much about knowing everything and remembering everything, but for me, it's important to know where I can find the information that I have gathered over time. So that is one of the big secrets that you need to have to know. And I like what Dr. Rexler always says. He doesn't know everything, but he always knows somebody who knows. And he would so often, as he said again, he had Dr. Ronak with him on the call. And so he's always asking somebody else, and they are doing together. And this is actually the way to learn. And so this is also something that is really important. So when we are finished with the call, Deborah and Roy, if you would stay on the call for a moment, then two of you. Anna has left. She obviously went to bed or had something else to do. So if you two stay on the call, and because you're my two new students, you both only just started. So that's great. And Gary, where are you now? You repeat, right? You have gone through the course, or when did you start?
You talking about the 100-day course?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I took
You
the
already-
first one.
You took the first one, yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
saw. Then all the rest, you're also from the 100 days, yeah. So that is, yeah. What else do we have here? The general guidelines for food, and it's really, again, they have here the general guidelines, which is healthy fats like ghee and the different oils, the ones that you should definitely avoid. And definitely what you should never eat is anything that is like margarine, but I guess everyone who is here knows that margarine is definitely the worst thing you can eat. And also what you should always, everything that is low fat, and that is something that most people don't know, is, or no fat is actually very bad for your health. And most people don't understand the concept behind that. Why can it be when you take out the fat, that must be healthy, particularly if I want to lose weight. But what most people don't know is what they replace, what they put in the food in order to keep the structure of the milk or the yogurt or whatever it is, in order to keep the structure of that food. And they will use the stuff that I never know what it's called. It's kind of the stuff that you put on the walls before you put the wallpaper on. It's the same stuff that they put actually in, because these are the carriers of the taste. Fat is a taste carrier. And the moment you take out the fat of the food, you have to replace it with something. And they are putting in stuff that our body cannot digest. So if you think you do something healthy by going to low fat or zero fat stuff, that's not a good idea. I mean, 2% is still kind of okay, but the moment you go below, they need to put something in to keep the structure. And that is very detrimental to your health. I know that because my ex-husband, he used to work for Unilever, and they were creating all the kind of fats and all of that. So he came back and he said, don't ever eat anything. If we have something, it's always full of fat or none at all. But that is what you learned. And when you kind of work in a company like that, what they're really putting into that. And he also was the guy who always ate margarine when he was studying as a student. And then when he started then to work for Unilever as again in the fat industry, he came home after a few weeks and he said, the only thing on our table is now butter and olive oil. So forget about all the rest. Because once he understood what they put in all of that and how they produce the oils, he said, no, that's so unhealthy. So let's stay away from it. So that is again where it comes from when we say we have to be as natural and as good. So olive oil always first, what's the how do you call that? The first
cold pressed.
Hmm?
First cold pressed.
Yeah, first cold pressed, definitely. And then also it should always, and that is also something that most people don't know. Any kind of good oil should always be in a dark bottle. Every oil that is really natural is very light sensitive. So in order to keep it really kind of fresh, and you should always keep it in a dark, it should actually be in a dark bottle. If they use a white bottle, they don't know what they're doing. That's what I'm always saying. Elio, you want to speak to that?
It's
Yeah.
the oil has to be unfiltered.
Yeah.
Look at the when you go and buy oil, and the unfiltered one, and it's the most expensive one because it has all the natural stuff in it. You know, they filter the oil, and you have a clear, true bottle of oil. When you have it unfiltered, you have sediments that you see in the bottle, and that's what helps you tremendously.
Can I say something? After Gail.
Gail first and then Susie.
Yep, Gail first.
And you
Okay,
also
go
want to
ahead.
look for unrefined, you know, that you want to look for that on the oils as well, unrefined oils. And I will say, you know, in my studies that canola oil, that oil is actually an oil that is a machine oil that came from Canada. It's from the rapeseed. And the Canadian government paid our FDA here in the United States to sell that as a food product because they could make a lot of money off of it. So I wouldn't even, don't even touch canola oil. Ever. It's not meant for us.
Absolutely true. Then in Europe, you know, they don't use that oil and not even for machinery. It is so horrible.
Yeah. And always read labels. If you know, if you stray away for something, you know, read the labels. If there's canola oil in it, put it back on the shelf. Leave it in the store.
Well, I was going to say that I can take it a step further. The olive oil industry makes more money than the cocaine industry, and they actually are making fake olive oil.
Yeah, they are.
So you have to be really careful. Like if it has multiple countries, not a good source. So you just have to really invest in high quality olive oil. Now, supposedly, if you stick it in the refrigerator and it solidifies, that's real oil. But I hate to say that, I can't imagine them not being able to make a fake oil that does that. Right? So you just have to be really careful where the source is authentic. You know, you're going to have to do some research on it. That's all. That's all I
The other
got.
thing is also the expiration date. So when you go in the store, watch out how long it is. Kind of, I always buy olive oil that says at least about 1.5 years. It shouldn't be longer than 2 years in the bottle anyway. So you need to make sure that it actually has a kind of a short shelf life in a sense. But then I still go for at least, it should be at least a year before it expires. 1.5 is better. 2 years is actually the longest that it could be when it's really good oil. So check for that as well. Don't buy oil that is just kind of expiring in 3 months, because that means it has been in the bottle for quite a while. And there are only a very few companies that actually give you both dates, the date it was filled into the bottle and the 2 years later when it expires. And these are actually the good ones. So that is one of the things that you also could look for when you go for really good oil, that they have both dates, the filling date in the bottle.
Or make your own ghee.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, I use more ghee now than I use olive oil, but still, if you use olive oil, then you still will need to have good olive oil. So therefore, that is definitely worth the investment, because you're not using that much. So it's worth to spend more money on that.
The other thing is to put the oil, the moment you open the oil, you put it in the refrigerator. It starts going rancid. The moment you open the bottle, you know, it starts going rancid. So the best thing to do, you know, open bottle of oil in the refrigerator.
Yeah. The other thing is, even though it should be in a dark bottle, but then it's really dark there. So
No,
that's
I keep
another
my oil.
thing.
And it's most of the time, obviously, it's getting hard, you know, so I have to wait until, you know, it thaws, you know, it melts, you know, whatever, you know, but it's worth the time.
Yeah. So that is to be said about oil. And then, of course, they give all the other kind of good grains that you could eat instead of the wheat. And unfortunately, a lot of the kind of the manufactured kind of grains that we have nowadays, particularly in America, and where everything is kind of done with these GMO kind of things. So you have to be careful what you're using. And that is also the reason why so many breads are actually not, you cannot eat them anymore. But so that is why it's a good idea to use your own grains that you can buy somewhere fresh, and then you can actually make your own bread. Again, it has all to, if you're a bread eater, because of the way they are doing things nowadays. And for example, we in Europe have still really good old grains that are not available in America anymore. And so that means that the bread that they make out of these old grains that have not been manipulated yet, they are really, it's a completely different bread that you can get in this. We still have like local bakeries that are still doing their dough in the morning for the bread, and it's not kind of in like an industry. It's still homemade, kind of homemade. So that is something completely different. So whenever I go back home to Germany, that is then what I indulge in. So it's not the gelato or the pizza in Italy as Clint did when he was there. I go for the bread when I'm back home. So anything else? As I say, there's when it comes to the diet, there is so much that we need to learn. And the biggest thing for me is what I would like to share with you is to really pay attention when you eat, and pay attention to your energy level after you eat, and pay attention to how you feel. How does your tummy feel? How does your intestines feel? How does your belly feel after a couple of hours? And if you feel something that is not right, then really take notes of what you've eaten. And then if you do that same again a couple of weeks later, and the same happens again, then it definitely is a sign that there is something that doesn't go well with you. And becoming really this observer of what is going on in your body when you eat or after you eat is one of the most important skills that you can develop when it comes to creating health. Really paying attention to that. And often it is minor things that we hardly ever notice. I can tell you, I ate something that I hadn't eaten in a long time, and the other day, and I got a hiccup. I haven't had a hiccup in years. And I was wondering what caused it in that, what I was eating, and I still haven't figured it out. But it's kind of really, I was wondering what happened. I didn't do anything what I'm normally, except that I had something that I hadn't eaten in a while, but there are a few things in it, so I don't know exactly which of that caused it. And so that was for me kind of, okay, I have to pay attention now. So I'm going to eat it again and see if it happens again, or if it was just a one-off. But I haven't had a hiccup in, I don't know how many years. So what caused it? And these are the questions that I'm asking myself all the time. So I invite you to do something like that as well. Any questions? Any comments? Anything you want to share before we say good night for tonight?
Hey, when they mix
I want to
the,
ask.
go ahead, Shamini.
I want to ask, what's coconut oil?
What do you mean? What about it, or?
Is it because like, I still remember when we were young, my mother only used coconut oil or sesame oil to cook food. It's only with the advent of modern products, she changed her cooking style. But even in my grandmother's village, they only used sesame oil and coconut oil to do their cooking. So Because it is not mentioned anywhere, like I read about the coconut oil. So I was just wondering.
Coconut oil is mentioned. Sesame oil is mentioned quite a bit as well. So you can definitely, these are good oils actually, sesame as well as coconut. Again, it's all about the quality, that it's organic, and that you make sure what you get. Depending on where you live, it's easy. In other places, it's not so much, because even here in the Bahamas, we have so many coconut trees. And of course, they're making coconut milk, they're making coconut cream, but they also make coconut oil. And here it is actually pretty good because it is native, and there has always been little companies that produce kind of homemade, or they have these little, I don't even know what you call those where they actually made it. It's not a distillery, it's where they press the coconut and create the oil. So it's really, it depends, but I would say where you are, it should be okay to use coconut oil. It's good. You just have to be, again, careful. I'm not 100% sure about
I get the better quality ones here.
Yeah, you still have to look it up. What's the Elio? Are you aware of that? How hot you can make it?
The two oils, those two oils are fantastic to cook with because they cook at a high temperature. And if you want to fry something and you want it crispy and you try to do that with olive oil, I tell you, you can wait until next year in Jerusalem. It's not going to happen. First of all, you're using a lot of, how should I say, a top quality oil that mostly should be eaten raw. And I know that some recipes, for the flavor, they call for that, but mind you, work with a low fire, when you're cooking, with olive oil. The coconut oil also, you can find it that is organic, and when it's done really well, buy a little bit of it and smell it. It has to smell like coconut.
Oh yeah, it does. The one I get, you get a nice aroma.
So you see the company that you're buying it from. So whatever they say on the label, you buy it once, this is not the real thing, I mean, it might be the real thing that they process the life out of it. It needs to smell like coconut. I cook with coconut oil all the time. The other thing is, you said about Ayurveda. I spoke to Dr. Naram in person, and he was trying to tell me, to take something with, I don't remember, but we insisted to take it with ghee. And between the...
Yeah, muted, I know. Elio, you're muted. Elio, you're muted.
I do not like the smell of the butter. So between the two of them, he said, no, you can take have it with coconut oil. So when I make my soup, I put it like half coconut and half ghee, because I cannot take it's just me. I'm not allergic to it, but that's where I'm at. Yes, those oils are excellent oils to cook and have. And if when I do the mouth pool, in the morning, I use coconut oil. The coconut oil is very light. So it's very easy to work with it. It is good also if you have a oily complexion, because it's much lighter. So you do not want to have a heavy oil with a oil complexion. So you're using the coconut oil instead. And you smell good.
That's true. Yeah, with oil particularly, we have to, and anything that when you try to fry things, you have to really watch the boiling point or whatever, so that it's not burning, because then you're actually again creating toxic stuff for your body that is difficult to digest, or actually cancerous as well. So we have to always watch out for these things. And so the rest kind of the booklet that is there is going into depth about the different doshas and what kind of diet you should eat depending on your dosha. So that is definitely worth a look at when you are getting there then, or go back to chapter 7 and not chapter, lesson 7. And just have a look at these things. And for you, Deborah and Roy, when you get there, then that is definitely what you should kind of then do as well to, if you know your doshas, and definitely Roy, you know, and Deborah, you obviously know as well. So then just look out for it as well. What is that? But if you want to have information in the meantime, I can also get it to you. So you can actually have a look right now at it. But particularly if you want to like watch the video again or have taken some notes, then I can I'll do that. I'll send you the just the workbook for 7. So that makes more sense. Instead of for you having to wait until your lesson opens up in a couple of weeks or in a few weeks.
Couple of years.
No, it's not so long. Deborah and Roy are really working. They're good.
I've been
Very
too sleepy tonight, you know.
Yeah,
I'm waking up.
Yeah, for you it's still early. For me it's nearly 11 o'clock. So for you it's still kind of early. But anyway, any other questions? Otherwise, I would say we do next week. We are still talking about the diet. Next week we look at it from a little different angle. How do we combine foods and which foods go together and which one you should never mix? Because your body cannot digest them together. And so that is definitely a very interesting angle on looking on diet. And that is what we are going to cover next week. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All of you, Roy and Deborah, if you could stay on for a moment.
Thank you. Namaskar. Talk
Thank
to you
you.
later.
Namaskar, Susie,
It's
Gail,
been a pleasure
Bye.
spending
Bye,
3
everyone.
hours with you.
Humor with you.
Yep.
Thank you.
See you.
Love you. I'm with you.
Love you and with you.
Cornelia, was
Okay.
nice spending 3 hours with you.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Something is addictive.
After our conversation this week on the phone as well.